And now for lesson 2, let's go into how these patterns form and control your life. We want to go over the connection between your nervous system and patterns. And the way we're going to do this, I'm going to show you the difference between internal and external patterns and the role of emotional density and the nervous system and how it plays a role in the patterns you're forming. This is where you're going to get the bridge between your baseline nervous system calibration and why these patterns happen, because your nervous system is directly connected to your ability to move through the quantum field.
Your ability to move through the quantum field at this pace is directly connected to how dense you are in the quantum field, density, right? And that density, the reason that's important when we speak about density in the quantum field is more about your emotions and your nervous system calibration. What we don't want is a reality where you try to move forward, you come down, you try to move forward, you come down. We want a reality instead where you can actually just start making some progress, even if it means going up here for a little bit and then going here, coming down, whatever that is. Your motion to the quantum field is directly connected to how dense you are in the quantum field. And what we're doing here with patterns is we're trying to unlock all of those oscillations in your life so that you can navigate this field correctly and ultimately come to this reality that you want. And that's why we're doing the work that we're doing here, where you have a goal, you're currently here, you don't like where you are, and you want to make progress into that goal. So think about the quantum field as a web that connects everything. There are infinite realities in this universe. You can change your life like that. And that is determined directly to the emotions and how heavy you are in the quantum field. And as we go through, you'll start understanding that a little bit more. So now that you have a baseline understanding of the quantum field, let's make some progress. When we think about patterns, one thing to realize is we have internal and external patterns. There are always two kinds of patterns going on, and your internal patterns dictate your external patterns, and your external patterns can also dictate your internal patterns. So when we think about making patterns and the patterns of your life conscious, you want to start connecting the dots between them. And the reason you want to start connecting the dots between them is they create an infinite loop of circularity between both worlds. The internal patterns are essentially everything that's happening within your body and your mind, right? Your breath, the tension in your muscles, the sexual energy you are having, the gut feelings in your body. These are all internal patterns that most of us skip because we focus on the external part of our world. The emotions are internal patterns, and they dictate your external reality, which is your external patterns. And that's what causes situations where when your inner reality is not necessarily aligned, or you haven't unlocked the blocks deep inside of you, whether that's sexual shame or shadows or whatever is the case, it manifests in the external world. And when external circumstances happen, it translates into your internal field where you might have a burst of sexual energy. You might find that your gut response is not necessarily there. You might find tension in your body. And if you're not aware of these different connections, you will miss it. When you're aware of these different connections, you will break it. External patterns, again, it's everything happening in your world. Everything in your business, everything in your relationships, your ability to manifest, women, intimacy. These are all the external patterns, and there's always a link. You might find you're about to lose a client, for example, and you find your breath completely goes off if you're self-aware. Or you might find that with intimacy, when there's a fear of intimacy, you have a different sexual response going on inside of you. If you don't notice this and make them super conscious and then connect the dots, you would miss the entire key. So always think internal and external patterns. What's going on in my life right now externally? And how is that reflecting internally inside of me? Am I having fear for my business, and that's leading to an increase in pornographic material consumption, increase in sexual delinquency, increase in not feeling stable, your breath being off? Or is your breath off, your nervous system is nervous and shaky, and that's leading you to have intimacy issues, issues within your business and your manifestations? Everything is connected. So pay attention to that. As we go forward, one thing I want to explain to you, and we'll dive into patterns. I'll show you how to do all of this in a second. One thing I want to explain to you is that the internal and external patterns, they intertwine and they can precede themselves, like I've mentioned. So the breath might go off, and as soon as the breath goes off, the nervous system starts to shake. You find yourself in a business meeting, completely bomb the business meeting, lose the client because the client can sense that internal pattern kicking inside of you, and it manifests in his reality as being uncomfortable. All of a sudden, the deal doesn't go according to plan. So these connections hold the key to the core blocks that you want to unlock here, and start to pay attention to them. And even as you watch this right now, really ask yourself, you can even pause this for a second and go, when was the last time I noticed my breath was off, or I noticed my body was uncomfortable in a situation? And how did that manifest immediately in my external reality? How did that affect the deal? How did that affect the woman when I was anxious or I was avoidant? Just make a very quick connection before we move forward, because this is going to serve you for the rest of this course right now. And also, I want you to note and really not make the mistake of thinking that you don't have patterns because you might not be experiencing ups and downs. Ups and downs in terms of you get to 300K a month, everything burns. Or you get the woman of your dreams and then you lose her. If you're not having those kinds of ups and downs, it still doesn't mean that patterns are not occurring. The patterns exist even when something is frozen in your life. One of the biggest issues and the biggest things I see some people come to me with is they say, hey, I'm in a relationship, things are kind of fine. There's really no polarity. We're not having as much sex, but everything is good. I'm not having patterns. There is a pattern embedded in the fact that there is no polarity in your life. Something is going on. Or someone might say, I have a business as a cash cow. It's super smooth. Life feels great. I'm not fully happy, but life feels okay. There's a pattern there. So really think through this. If you think that because things are kind of fine, there are no patterns, that's a lie. They're patterns.
At this point, I want to take you a little bit deeper into the patterns and the quantum field. This is going to be a slight repeat of what we've already covered, but this will going to get a lot more detailed. And when you see this, we'll break down that chart in an even deeper way for you. So follow me here, because now you're going to understand the even deeper aspect of what causes these patterns.
Let's move into this graph here and let's show you what's typically happening. We're going to go into many examples of this. When I think about a pattern going on in someone's life, what would often happen is they would have this reality where they would achieve some goal. And this happened to me, by the way, which I'll break down. They will achieve some goal, let's say 300K per month. And as soon as they get to that goal, something would happen in their life where maybe they've been dreaming about this for a while. They've really wanted to get to this point for a very long time in their life. They reach that goal, something would immediately happen and cool them right down and take them down to a point where they get to this particular point and something has crashed. They hate this point. There's a lot of pain in this point, and they will have some kind of crash. They'll stay here for a while. Their energy wouldn't enjoy that particular space. They would hate this point. And immediately that would change them again, and they will go right back up and hit some other level. Again, another point will happen, and then they will crash down. So what we really want to do here is understand what's happening at the top of your pattern, because this is your achievement point and this is your crash point. So if you start to look through your life, I'm pretty sure there's things that have happened in your life where you reach some point, you reach some goal in your life. And after reaching that goal in your life, something immediately happens. Like, for example, you might get sick, right? You might get sick at this point and immediately you start crashing down. All you realize is after a while, you've lost motivation, you've lost energy. You come to this point, the old reality you've been trying to run away from immediately comes right back to you. And then you go, holy shit, I shouldn't really be in this point. You get mad at yourself and boom, you pick up energy again and you drive up. In this case, we can call this point right up here a sick point. And again, you have to realize and think through what specifically is happening for you. When you're at this point of the sick point, what's really happening, right? If I move this over here, let's say we just call this 300K per month. What's really happening is at this sick point, for some reason, energetically for you, this is a threshold. This zone, this sick zone, is actually unsafe for you energetically. And as you approach that unsafe point, your body, your energy is not fully calibrated at that level. Something kicks off in the quantum field and you manifest a reality, in this case, sickness, that immediately drives you all the way down to a crash. And you would also find that when you crash and now you're at that point of crashing, there are underlying emotions that come on. So first you might feel hate, you might feel pain in that particular zone. But what typically happens is at this point, you'll feel something like weakness, not good enough, right? One of these kinds of feelings will start showing up. Not good enough, not worthy, powerless. That's a big one. Powerlessness will kick in. And when that powerlessness kicks in, because you typically don't want to feel that powerlessness, you would now change your narrative. Something would now occur. And from that crash point, you will get a boost of energy that propels you forward very, very aggressively. This boost of energy is the inner narrative, that's based on, say, something your father said: don't be weak, don't be powerless, drive harder. And you've made a decision in your life that you can't allow yourself to be powerless or weak. And because you can't allow yourself to be powerless or weak, as soon as you get to this point, you might stay there for a little bit, and then that mechanism kicks in and that propels you up again. And you would also find that now when you get to this particular point, same thing here, and you hit some level of achievement, you get the woman, you make the money, whatever it is, you'll find that your ego, and in this case it's just a money thing, it might be a different thing for you, you'll find that your ego, power, confidence, etc., all of that kicks in. So here what's really happening right? And the reason you're having this pattern is because for some reason you've attached your confidence, your ego, your power to whatever achievement point is here. And every single time you attach your power, your good feelings to a certain achievement point, and you reach that point and it's related to something external, in this case, some monetary level, 300K per month. If this ego, power, confidence is tied to this, what would happen is, because it's not a real expression and is based in something external, you on the quantum level will manifest a reason to crash back down. And that will cause you again to go right back down in your pattern, and you will come back into the weakness, because that's another core feeling inside of you that you haven't expressed. And because you haven't expressed it, your soul is trying to get you to feel that particular expression. So every time you will find yourself cool right back down, to get to this crash point, you would hate being in the crash point. Fear would kick in. All those emotions you want to run away would kick in. And then you would have a narrative that will give you some boost of energy. And that boost of energy might be, again, don't be weak, be hard, kick in. That will drive you forward. Let's go a little bit deeper into this, because this is super important. Let's say now I have my patterns again. And in this case, remember, this is the sick point. So we'll call this sick point. And it's interesting to note something here, that this number, 300K per month, whatever it is for you, it could be women, replace this with anything. This number is also, achieving this target is connected to a danger zone for you, right? So you really have to remember that this is a danger zone, right? To your body. And this is very subconscious. This is why it happens in the patterns, right? This is a danger zone. And when you get here, your archetype, your way of showing up in the world might be, and your inner narrative. So you might say, I made it. So you really need to think, what energy do you feel in that point of I made it? Proud, accomplished, whatever that is. When the sick point hits, because it's your danger zone, remember, you cool down, you get to this other point, say you're at the bottom, and the narrative there is weak, powerless, can't, whatever those words are. At this point, to change your energy, because you're uncomfortable with feeling those energies, you will kick into some other archetype of yourself, which might be the hustler, right? The aggressive man, the bulldozer. And this is when you find yourself step into an energy that really becomes forceful, that's pushy, that's very directed at where you want to go. But the only problem with this energy is that it is not sustainable. And so when this energy kicks in, it can only kick in until about here, and then that energy taps out. And when you hit that point, that's when the crash happens. The conversation we're having here really is one about what energy are you using to drive your life. This is why we're making the changes. Otherwise, you have the oscillation. If it's the hustler, the bulldozer, the I had trauma in my life and I no longer want to be in that situation again. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I never feel weak and powerless. If that's your narrative, you'll keep driving up. But let's get into why this is happening, because there's a reason, a really deep reason as to why you keep cooling down, as to why this keeps oscillating in your life. So now let's get into the reason why these patterns are occurring in your life. And if you have questions about this as we go through, ask. It takes some time to understand this, but when you understand the oscillations of what's happening in your life and you can navigate what really happened when I hit some achievement zone, what really happened? Did you fall sick? Did some chaos happen? Did someone abandon you? Did something change? And did that change lead to your crash? And if so, at the crash, what emotions were you feeling that you hated feeling? And then what energy drove you up? What was the energy that led to your success? What was the energy that led to you going back up to some target in your life? And after you got to that target point, again, what happened? Because that energy is typically going to tap out if it's not in the right source. And the beautiful thing with patterns is when you remove the bottom part of your patterns, your life takes off, right? This is super important. So now coming back here, we've gone through a little bit of patterns in the quantum field. This is essentially the map that we're looking at. What happened at these different points? Why did you cool down here? What happened at the bottom? Why did you go up? What is the oscillation? And the thing here with patterns is you need to take time to really think and see the bigger picture. And it's important to realize that patterns happen in different cycles. Some of them are larger. Some of them are, 7-year cycles in your life. Some of them are patterns that takes a lot of time to really see the grand picture. So you need to zoom out. Some of them happen super quick. When I do this, something happens with my wife or my partner, energy changes. When I'm in this zone, something changes in my business, it switches, right? You can have 3-day patterns and you can have 7-year patterns. So when you start observing your patterns, really take that time to zoom out and go, what really happened? What happened in the different aspects of my life? Because that's how you're going to see the picture. And the patterns is what's going to give you the key to the emotions that you need to release, which once you start to release that, more energy flows through your body and your life. You can manifest a lot more with that. And now when you take that dark masculine energy for amplification further on as you go through this course, then you're going to become extremely penetrative in the world. But the thing here is, why do these patterns occur? Why is it that you get to a point where you hit some success and you crash? What is really going on? Because you want to succeed. You want to achieve what you want and stay there. So how come reality and the universe keeps bringing you back down and making these changes in your life?